Okay, folks, good morning or late morning to you people in Europe. People from Europe. Okay, a recap. This should be the last session of painting the elephant. It should be because it's almost done. And this is where we're at with it right now. Got the basing done on it, the figures are glued on, and we just need to do the painting and add the tufts, and she's ready to go. So we'll do pictures of this afterwards, because no matter what I do on this live video, it doesn't look, honestly, what I see. So she's sealed and ready to go. And it's heavy. It's really, really heavy. It's a heavy elephant with 2 figures on the ground extra. So this is a very, very heavy piece. Good morning, Mr. Harvey. So, and this is I was just commenting to my wife, I like going to places and taking coasters. Usually if I go to a restaurant and they give me something to put my drink on, I immediately go and stuff it in my wife's purse, because I'm just kind of like keeping those mementos, but they make a really good thing to take photos on. Not that, I don't have a stack of them. Mr. Ian, welcome. See how fast we can get going. I stayed up way too late. I was in bed well after midnight. I only got about 4 hours of sleep last night. And that was after having 3 drinks. So have a little bit of a headache from dehydration. So, but it's not beer, so that's why I'm not dead. It was scotch. So I'll be in great shape here in a moment. Ben, Dirk, all the usual suspects. Excellent. Okay. I just gotta remember what colors I used for this guy. Oh, man. Flat Earth, US Field Drab, Dark Sand. You enjoyed 4x4. I'm glad you did. I didn't. I was really annoyed by several of things. Probably the biggest one was the noise. I'm getting tired of playing in a hot environment. I'm getting really, really tired of it. And even with all that noise, I'd say the temperature in there was probably 76, which is way too warm as far as I'm concerned. 76 with poor airflow, so it wouldn't be that bad if I didn't work in an environment that was already too hot anyways. So several times I've been really close to saying, fuck it, I'm not gonna game until the winter time, or we can game somewhere else. I guess I played enough games that I don't need to game that badly, but I've come close. But I haven't. They're nice folks. I enjoy hanging out with them. I just don't want to be in that environment, especially on a work day. And you really shouldn't play with stuff you don't know the rules of. If you put out a VUA, know the freaking rules for a VUA. It's not my responsibility to. It'd be like, somebody hijacks a plane and they ask me how to fly the damn thing. Well, you're the one that hijacked it. Maybe that's not a good example, but it's not my responsibility. So the flip side of it is I'm really, really, really motivated. Well, I'm a lot more motivated now than I ever have been to work on my World War II stuff. So maybe I'll work on some World War II stuff this weekend. It is a long weekend. Just ready to play some rules that aren't abstract. Right. I don't know what the hell it is about this brush, but this one's always sticking at the end. But we don't get a lot of opportunities to play videos anymore. We just have too many people show up. You see, even with 4, I guess you could you can't really have people, hey, come over and hang out. Oh, by the way, shut the F up while you're not playing. Doesn't really work, so. Totally agree. I know how all troops and armies work. Not sure about troop types I don't use. It's not even about troop types. There's so many rules in DBA, I'm sure in DBMM as well, that are abstract. And it's a pain in the ass. It's not about learning stuff. I like learning stuff. It's just like, where the hell is it in the rule book while you're on film, while you've been awake for 12 hours or more, and you're hot? It's old. It's getting old. So, as we got some people, it didn't happen last night, but we've got some people that'll let me put out BUA and a river, and let me do a littoral landing, and they don't know how all those things work together, and it's like, what the hell did I do wrong? I gotta look all this shit up at the end of my work day. So, and how many more times I got to play the game to stop finding all weird shit like this? I don't know what the rules for that is. We only played over 2,000 games. It's just getting real annoying. So. Say, I ain't looking up shit unless we're playing it in the morning on a weekend. And I swear that because there was all the background noise, the video was, I don't know how I could prove this. I guess if I really wanted to go in and look at it, I guess I could have. But it seemed like it had a lot of, because there was extra noise going on all the time throughout the length of the video took forever to crunch. Or as they like to call it, export. Which export makes it sound like how long it took to send it through the internet to YouTube, which is not what export is in the game. That's what I would call export, but it took forever to crunch, which is easily the most annoying part of editing videos. Is how long that takes. And I use a minimum of graphics. I've got a little theme song, a little the cover sheet basically to the intro or the title of the title page, and that's it. I try to keep it down the minimum to crunch time is not crazy. Not because I can't make a better looking video with more graphics. I could. That's why I stopped doing the army intros and stuff like that. It was taking way too much time to crunch, and sometimes jamming. So, whatever, it's out there. I appreciate that you enjoyed it. I've gotten the same comment by several people. Just the alternative is not to film. That doesn't really benefit anybody. I don't want to not film. And I'm sure that if you want to watch videos, you do not want me to not film, because then you don't get to see it. But it kind of sucks to have to put out a product out there that is less than what you would want it to be. But anyhow, in other news, this is working great. The paint and stuff is great. Really getting a lot done these days. Well, compared to how I was doing stuff before. I even got some painting done during the week to finish these guys up. I want to move on from them. Not because I don't enjoy working on these guys, but there's other stuff to do. So, make way for the other things that have to do. After this guy, we got to do 3 stands of light horse and a cavalry commander. And I've really resisted going through my World War II rules, although I did pull them out. And I don't think I've ever played with vehicles in it. They didn't come out long enough in advance. They came, as soon as those rules came out and I found out I really liked them, it wasn't long before DBA took my soul and they didn't play it. So if I do introduce it to the boys, I'm going to do lots of play testing here so it doesn't bog down, so I can get a good flow of how it is. But it's not difficult to understand. But I didn't want to fool around with the vehicle so much that I fired up a computer game yesterday while I was waiting between steps of this. I've mentioned it before. It's a game that was inspired by the old Avalon Hill game called Patton's Best, called Armored Commander 2, except they have so many campaigns now. You basically, I think I saw you could even play like the Japanese and the Pacific, going through Burma or something like that. And you basically command a tank and manage it. And it's very minimalist graphics, extremely minimalist graphics, but I think the gameplay is pretty solid. Messed around with it a little bit, and there's lots of options they've added in it but since the last time I played it. Not only the campaigns, but you can pick whatever tank you want to be in. I always let it assign a random thing. So I started as I wanted to play for a while if I liked it. I started Barbarossa, playing one of the Kraut bastards, and I said they had a new option for select armored cars, so it could randomly assign you to an armored car if that's what it felt like doing, and it did. So I'm invading Russia in a SDKFZ 221, which is a four-wheeled armored car with minimalist armor and one MG34 in it. And I've survived a couple days so far. I've been lucky, but yeah, hopefully I get upgraded. You're in a shitty vehicle when you're hoping to get something with a 20 millimeter cannon. But there's random events in there. You could get artillery support. You could get air support, other supporting units like there's a Panzerjäger 1 in one of the scenarios that was helping out. There was an 88 millimeter flak gun a couple times that showed up, and I played Sir Robin running away while the 88 nailed him. So you can't control the other stuff. It just kind of fires on its own, and it's a cool little game. I think it's pretty inexpensive. It is extremely minimalist graphics, and the menu is very old school. It's the menu is something you would see in like 1992, which is really hard to kind of click on things when we're so used to using a mouse to go exactly where you need to go. This one you need to use page up, page down, QE. It's all labeled on there. It's just kind of awkward to have to go back to that. I wish I had more mouse usability in it. I'm fine with the retro graphics. I'm sure they did that to kind of keep the being able to work on the program a lot easier. Maybe it's all done in BASIC. I don't know, but it's a cool little game. And it's available on Steam. And geez, I want to say when I got it, it was under $10. It was all, some things are like too cheap. Who knows what it is now? It's a cool little game. Armored Commander 2. I can't sit there and play it all day, though. I mean, it was in between things. I don't have it in me anymore. But maybe I'll be inspired over the long weekend. I'll work on a vehicle or something like that. Some vehicle that I've had for 30 years. I got to figure out where I'm at on that. JSU, I think I'm building it as the 122 that I've got. It's a I think it's a Ukrainian kit that I probably got around the time that Ukraine was independent, and it has terrible instructions. Terrible instructions, but you know, with all the drawings and stuff that we have on the internet and stuff like that, it's not bad. It's just really finicky with all the little pieces. I may do some of that. I feel like gluing some shit together, and it's a long weekend, so we got lots of possibilities. I don't think we're going out of town. Talking World War II, after discussions regarding the Estonian film, okay, 1944 is what it's called here in the States, which that's really the worst thing about the film is the boring title. You read up on Wikipedia about the Estonian SS. They started as all volunteers. Other Estonians joined Politsy battalions. Next week, it will be 40 years since I bought my first 15mm Army, and I still haven't finished painting it yet. Holy shit. Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of it is, as much gaming as I do, I still consider myself a painter more than a gamer. But if it wasn't for games or the possibility of using my stuff in a game with other people, I would have that problem. I mean, I had bought a set of rules called Armati about 1996. We went on a road trip down to Tampa at the store that we used to go to all the time for miniatures. And I always wanted to play some Renaissance Spanish. Not always, but I got this itching to play some Renaissance Spanish. So Armati had them in there. I picked up the rules, and I never played the game until about 2003. Mid 2004. Is this guy in our game group had posted on a bulletin board that he was going to run a games day with it. And I'm like, my opportunity to finally play this rule set so that I can get my foothold on able to understand how to play it. You know, if I had Mitch in front of me, okay, and he didn't have such a weird freaking schedule, or a polar opposite schedule of mine, we could sit down and read the rule book and move stuff around and figure out how to play it together. But I really don't want to do that alone. It's just kind of boring. It's just boring just to sit there and kind of process stuff by yourself. And so I needed to play the rule set before I was motivated to build any of the armies. So I did. I went to this show, and this guy I was able to get my foothold, and I'm like, okay, cool. Now I can paint the stuff that I've had for 7 years or whatever at the time, which seems like a really short period of time these days. I've only had this for 7 years, and when I showed up to play it at the next con, nobody played it anymore. And that's where I picked up DBA, because somebody was playing DBA, and the rest is history. So I could have been a dreaded Armati player. I have the rules. So, and Armati pretty much died. They did make another version of it. I have that one as well. I think I have 3 versions of Armati. The original game, which is the original one I picked up, then the advanced one, which added a few more things to it, and whatever the second edition one was that pretty much came on after the fact, and I don't know that anybody even played it at all. But because the advanced one or the second edition, I forget what it's called, was not the same author. It's the guy that took over for him or something like that. I don't know exactly what the details are, but it sounded like the people that played the game and the author kind of got into it. I'm not picking sides or anything. This is just what I heard, so. Played a lot of Armati between late 90s, early 2000s. Painted about a dozen armies for it. Yeah. Mitch actually had all of his stuff, all of his ancients that you see, all of his original ancients were all based for Tactica. So they were really... Second edition Armati was a mess and largely killed it off. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of rule sets suffer from the problem of not enough playtesting. Or if you have a rule set that's published, okay, and you want to make changes, it's a pain in the ass. It's like herding cats. Like, oh man, we published the rules and now I found this glaring error. So let me put it on my website, this addenda or addendum that, the 2.1 version I need people to play. But then you don't know if everybody out there that's picked up the rules is playing that latest version. So like one person may be playing one's playing, and you're just like herding cats. So if I was ever to work on something, I don't want it to be a published rule set because then it's not easy for me to change it. That and I'm not interested in doing stuff for the money. It's not like I'm going to get rich on it. It's not like I can not do my job and do that instead. And maintain my standard of living, which is, comfortable. So yeah, I wouldn't want to physically publish anything. Like that rule set that came out by Osprey. I know the guy that published the Absolute Emperor rules, and I would, what if you publish something and Osprey wants to do it a different way than you want to do it? I just feel like that's like, it would encroach on my creative direction for it. I don't want somebody telling me what to. I'm not going to put out rules for somebody else telling me how to do things that just wants to make money off of it. I don't know. I've already thought all that stuff out before. Go down a wrong way. Play Armati for a while because those are my group I want to play. Found them rather tedious. There's Armati. It seemed like the biggest disadvantage of Armati was that if you set up wrong, you were screwed. You could only wheel so little, and maybe DBA gives you too much freedom. But honestly, the strength of DBA is the pips. The pip system is awesome. The fact that you cannot do everything you want all of the time. I'm kind of hooked on that. I'm hooked on that your guy's not listening to you. And I've never played a game that had that ever before. The most I've played with my skirmish systems is, if you're in good order, you're going to be able to do whatever your actions are. You just may not know what order they come up in. So that was the fog of war I was used to. But this whole, you can only do 3 things, that's pretty awesome. Obviously the other people, your opponent also facing the same thing, the same issue. Okay, there's the base coat of the Flat Earth, which looks almost like Georgia clay. It's not as red as it is on the screen, but it's not too far off. Okay, this is not a significant color difference. This is US Field Drab, and we need to put this away because we do not need to use a wet palette for dry brushing. Mr. B, good morning to you too. But ultimately, you kind of have to play whatever other people play, especially when you're younger. Moving Armati was too restrictive. Often units could not move into contact with nearby enemy because they couldn't turn fast enough. Yeah, I saw that. I could see that being a real. That's an easy fix, though. You just have to have an author that plays his own game. You got to play test your own rules. It's good for other people to play test your rules, but you have to be able to see it yourself. I think we'd be able to play test we'd be pretty successful at play testing rules, but now these two colors actually next to each other. It's not much of a color difference. One on top of the other one is just not much of a color difference. And this is actually the first 3-color scheme I've did of this that I came up on my own. All the other ones I've gotten from Flames of War. This one I'm like, I wanted something a little bit different for the step, and I kind of decided on which 3 colors to use on my own. Without, the good thing about the Flames of War ones is you can see what 3 colors they used and what the end effect is. I'm like, okay, I like that. So let me use those 3 colors. You're currently organizing my old Armati armies to the strongest, which uses similar size units. Yeah, the grid doesn't bother you? I don't know. I've never played it. I'd be willing to play it. It has no army lists, I think, right? Which, if you've got DBA or DBMM, you really don't need army lists. We're all big boys. We can figure stuff out, I think I know somebody who plays that, and they use, or maybe Scott talked about learning those rules. And he's like, just use a D8 or a D10 or whatever instead of the cards. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of using cards where you can roll dice. I just don't think I am a horrible card shuffler. I absolutely detest. It's like it's your turn. You're playing cards. It's your turn to deal cards out, Tony. I'm like, oh fuck. Can't I go to work instead? You're an old board gamer. You love grids. Okay. Are you really old, though? As I say things all the time, I'm old school. I never feel old. I just feel like things are not like they used to be. I don't feel old. I still feel like I'm 30, and I got 2 decades on that, but I never feel old. But I certainly say all the time, like, this isn't how things used to be. I actually say that all the freaking time. I don't have a problem with grids. I don't know about mixing miniatures and grids like that. And I'm sure we'll film games of it because I actually really enjoyed it a lot. It was Command and Colors Napoleonics, and Mitch likes to play with terrain. He bought a mat that has all hexes, basically, like a felt mat that has all hexes printed on it, and he just puts terrain and trees and hills in each zone instead of using the Command and Colors maps, which, like I told him, I said, well, he really likes it, and I don't know that I like it better because I kind of my brain has to squint to kind of see what everything is. It's easier to tell where everything is with the blocks than it is with the units, but I did enjoy it. I did enjoy playing it. mostly because I was playing Austrians and whooping ass. But I did enjoy playing it, and it didn't bother me there. I just, I think DBA is way too. You can't contact them like this. You got to hit them exactly from. You have to spend too much time trying to how to contact perfectly instead of just you hit them at a freaking corner, and move on. It's too abstract. I just would think that the squares would be even more abstract. Although I've played a fair amount of pike and shot campaigns, and that's all on a grid, and I'm okay with it. 61, you're not old. Not only does TTS have army lists, the author sends out revised lists for every 3 months. Okay, well that's good. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. 61 isn't old. You only got 10 years on me. Which is most people's age. Most war gamers are about a decade older than me. Which, as I like to say, I really should have been born when you were born, because my sister's 14 years older than I am. So I was a happy accident, an unhappy accident, something like that. So, and I had an older dad. So my dad and your dad were probably about the same age. So. Personally, you don't like grids because they make the game less pretty. Yeah. I'd also never played a game before DBA that allowed pre-measuring. And it's hokey, but man, it solves a lot of problems. It solves a lot of problems. The other thing that solves a lot of problems is playing with honorable people. And and verbalizing, okay, I'm going to move right outside of shooting range, and freaking tell them, so that if somehow they get bumped, oh, well, you're in range now, just be honorable with each other. I've really haven't had much of a problem with it. Grids avoid a lot of arguments about movement and whether units can contact each other. Do you guys argue a lot over there on that island? I'm blessed with some pretty good folks to play with. The other thing is that, it depends what attitude you bring to the table. If you bring an attitude of you want to play the game correctly and you don't want to win at all costs, then maybe people that are leaning into that direction won't lean in that direction because they see that that's not what you're getting to. But if you want to be an asshole, you can't expect everybody to be nice to you. So it is, you kind of set the stage on how you want the game to be operated. Like, I personally play, who was it that, somebody was playing the game the other day on the last video, and they re-rolled a roll that I would have had a problem with them re-rolling, because I don't re-roll any rolls. I think it was Scott. He rolled on half of a hill, and I'm like, I'm not playing. I don't give a shit what you're doing, but I don't re-roll anything. It's consistent. Re-rolling dice isn't a problem as long as you're consistent. You can't just re-roll them when you don't like what the dice result is. So I just play everything unless it's, obviously topples over, or, falls in a field of, if it lands somewhere and it's not on the playboard, yeah, you can't play it. Like in a field of pikes or something like that, and it's sitting in the middle of the pikes. Well, obviously that's not a real die roll. If it lands on the floor, not a real die roll. Don't really have a problem with that kind of stuff, but some people are like, oh, you play with cocked dice. I play with all dice. All you're doing is creating more work for yourself, having to re-roll the dice. You just have to be consistent. If you use cards, see, I don't like cards for. I don't think you get a good shuffle, and I hate shuffling cards. Hate it. And I suck at it, and I've watched videos, and I'm no good at it. I'm a painter, not a freaking card shuffler. So I never feel like you don't have to worry about somebody bending your dice. I'm not a card fan. The game, the World War II game that I play, their system uses cards. You have a card for each person, or you have a card for each action the person is eligible to do, and most troops can do two. So there's two cards for every guy, and you put them in a deck and you shuffle them out. I'm like, no, I'm get a big Crown Royal bag, and I use poker chips, and I write on the poker chip the guy's name, and it's just easier. Now it makes a hell of a lot of noise, which I think that what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Amazon and order some discs. But the same thing, I want to put them in a bag and shake them up, mix them up real good. Instead of sit there and shuffle these cards that you hand make, you may end up dog-earing the corners. So, back in the days of WRG Ancient Rules, clipping the corner was pretty commonplace. My memories would suggest it didn't improve the game. Yeah, I'd never played any Ancients or Medievals prior to DBA 2.2. I wasn't opposed to it, just nobody in my area did. Use numbered chits drawn from a bag instead of cards to the strongest. There you go. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Anything like that. I don't know that you could get a better randomization than putting stuff in a bag. I think a bag is great. I think the bag system works wonderful. But to be honest with you, the big thing I don't want to use cards for is combat resolution. I want to roll a dice. I want to roll dice for combat resolution. Dice or die or dice, either way. I'm okay with it being one die roll. I'll be honest with you, I thought it was really weird. What do you mean DBA uses a one die? Oh, and the die is a D6? That's stupid. No, obviously I don't think that now, but that was my initial reaction. I come from a percentile background. So that's what I happen to be used to. Everything I played before that was percentile. Or D10. Command Decisions D10. Sea Creek 4 was percentile. The rules we were making for World War II was percentile. Face of Battles percentile. Jeez. How we doing on coffee? Let me go have a little bit more. Be right back. You mainly use chits because your fingers are getting too stiff to shuffle cards, and cards are a little too large for a 15mm game. I could see that. You started wargaming 50 years ago playing World War II. Discovered Ancients in 73, WRG 4th edition Ancients. I'm even older than Ian. The thing that floors me is the farther back you go, the less figure manufacturers there were, obviously, and the less poses they were for a particular. It's at the fan speeds doing the. Let's change to a different speed. The more figures you needed, for the game, but yet the less amount of poses that were available. So you couldn't do a unit like this that had all kinds of different poses in it. They would all end up looking like this. You know, all exactly the same pose and minifigs. I just can't imagine having a unit where there's 30 guys and you have to paint them all like this. That'd be boring as shit. But, you know, I never was fascinated about ancient and medieval stuff until I started playing it. It was the opposite of World War II. I was fascinated by World War II stuff before I ever played a World War II game. I was fascinated with warships. I'm not talking about modern crap. I'm talking about World War II, World War I, warships, before I ever played a war game of it. So, still am, even though I don't talk about it. That's my first historical love was warships. And because of the stuff, the books I grew up with that my dad had in the house, you know, and you'd go down for breakfast and you have them at your table and you'd look through all the pictures and, you know, and then when I found out, oh, they make little miniatures of them, I'm like, oh, freaking awesome. I didn't know how to paint at that time. I had to kind of figure it out. I mean, I was a drawer. I used to draw. People thought I drew pretty good. I don't know. I'm hard on myself. I draw better than most people. That's not saying anything. Most people are really, really bad at drawing. Really, 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 really bad at drawing. But that's what it started with. It was, you know, my love for the period first and wargaming second. Ancients DBA was the opposite. You know, I enjoyed playing the game and it got me to learn about a lot of things I had no idea about. You know, I mean, I still had above average history knowledge compared to people. That doesn't mean anything because I did take all history as electives. You know, so, but you know, how to spot the difference between a Carolingian soldier and a Norman. You know, I didn't know. I mean, I knew what a Norman looked like. I didn't know what a Carolingian looked like. You know. I didn't know the difference between a Roman legionnaire, an imperial Roman legionnaire with the lorica segmentata, and a Roman that fought the Carthaginians. That's the stuff you learn when you're either reenacting or what I like to call it wargaming, which is kind of reenacting without wearing all the itchy clothes and sleeping on the ground. I did 2 tours in the Boy Scouts. I don't want to sleep on the ground anymore. Thank you. I've said it before, wargaming to me has always been about learning. Not just playing some game, but like learning real shit, you know, through learning. Through playing the game. That's why I have zero interest in playing Warhammer stuff. You're not learning anything real, you know. And, Warhammer and many things that are like that. One of you guys recommended, I'm pretty sure it's one of you British guys recommended the Wings of Glory game. I got it last week, live. I downloaded it on one of my sessions. I think it was on Sunday. And played the hell out of it. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready for more shit now. Where is it? It's done really well. It's done pretty nicely. And I think the computers is relatively challenging. It doesn't have. I don't think it has the when you're tailing somebody. I don't think it has the rules for that. So it's easier to get away from people than it would be. Easier to get away from the computer than it would be a person. Identical figures much quicker. It is. I just get bored. Current 28mm project involves painting 224 identical Malburian infantry, and I'm exactly halfway as of last week. Well, see, they're okay. If they're in the same pose, it's okay. Like if I was playing Romans and they all were the same pose, I'm okay. Those are some orderly bastards. But if you're playing like feudal knights, that's just not going to work for me. Malburian, they probably march to the same tune, so that would probably work okay. All of my 20mm skirmish, I don't have a single figure that's repeated, which is a bit extreme. I could have bought a couple packs of each one and, paint them slightly little different. But every single one of my figures, I think that I don't have any repeats. So that's how many different 20mm figures there are. As a matter of fact, there are some that are real similar, like the SHQ guys. They all have like minimalist type of stuff on them, and I don't like them because of that. They're not different enough from each other. I was talking about some molds are still made, and they're like, they just won't die. I guess. Like talking about talking about 20mm stuff, because I've been around that stuff a long time. All the FAA molds, they still make all that stuff. They still make all the SHQ stuff as far as I know. But the freaking Battlefield miniatures disappeared. And I love the Battlefield miniatures. So I had just bought some Battlefield miniatures of a Stalingrad line that they made just before I got into DBA. And I went to look for them about 2 years ago and didn't realize that the company's defunct. The molds were worn out and they weren't refurbished. Can't get them anymore, out of print. I'm like, what the hell? But yet all the figures I have no interest in are still made. Well, good thing I bought one pack of everything when I had my chance, because they're not available anymore. I pulled out those figures the other day. Man, I hate the FAA figures. I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's the cheekbones. I just don't want a whole army of freaking cheekbone folks. Heavily cheekbone folks that all look the same. Yeah, it never occurred to me, you better get these guys before they're not made anymore. I'm like, what? I guess that's one of those things you find out later in life. Your own mortality and The figures you didn't get may not be available anymore. Some of the 15 millimeter minifigs from the 70s are still in production, including all ancient and medieval ranges. These guys here, see, these are the minifigs I know. What time period are they from? Like the early 80s? I like these. I really like the style that they're done in. They're not the strip minifigs. Those must be, I've actually never, I don't own any of them. And I own a lot of minifigs, but they're not the strip minifigs. What time period are those from? Like early 80s, mid 80s? All right, we're going to go ahead and do the edge of the stand now, and then we'll come back and highlight the little rocks. I've just given up on trying to squirt this stuff out. I think it works better to just do it like this. Of course, I got to put that far away from myself so I don't have a user error. All right. Move this to the edge of the stand. What I'd really love to do today is go on a road trip and go to that big bookstore, that used bookstore in Jacksonville. Not that I need any books, but I find going to bookstores extremely relaxing. He bought a Renaissance Spanish army using 15 millimeter minifig strips circa 78. Yeah, those are earlier than mine. I got a lot of their Renaissance Spanish guys, but they're this later period stuff. What rules are we going to use for them? Tercio? Never played it. I've heard of Tercio. if they were Z codes, then late 70s, early 80s. They are Z codes. Zs and ZCs. The 15 millimeter strips were early mid 70s. Many figs remodeled their Napoleonic ACW Renaissance ranges in the early 90s. Yes, I was impressed with Tercio until I played the rules. Just too slow and overcomplicated. Never finished a game with Tercio. Yeah, that's a shame. An unfinished game is time wasted. Anybody ever play crap? The rules by The Perfect Captain. What is it called? Spanish Fury Battle? They look really period specific. They just have too many troops for my taste. I gotta paint all that shit, you know? Okay. Edging's done on him. I gotta paint the very small rocks. Pale sand, where art thou? I just think people just don't play. They don't play their. They come out with rules. They don't play them enough, or they want something out of the rules that's totally different that you want as a player. Yes, every week you comment about Perfect Captain. They're nice and period specific. I've seen their movement markers on their cards and it looks really cool. I just never... Come move to America. We'll play every week. I think they look really cool. I don't know how they are, but... Just too many figures to paint. Now, let me put a caveat on that. If the game was such that I could paint individual figures and then put them together into a unit, it might not be bad. It's overwhelming when you know, okay, I got to make this unit and it's got to have 24 figures in it, for instance. And then you're like, okay, which 24 figures am I going to use? And right then and there, I have to decide who's going to be in that unit. And if they release other figures from a different manufacturer, I can't implement them in the unit because it's already built and I don't want to rebase it. So if it was individual figures, you know, like I've been talking about Blood and Steel, you know, I can paint a pack of, you know, 4 infantrymen or whatever that they come in and paint those. Okay, and then buy another pack of 6 and move them in and out because they're individually based however I want. That's a way forward. But having to commit to, okay, which 60 guys are going to be in this unit and then not deviate from that is just too tall an order for me, you know. Problem is no longer have friends willing to learn the rules. Yeah. I definitely see that happening and it's just not worth it. Maybe even more so for myself because I'm filming everything. I don't want to get shit wrong. There's a lot of people who've never played a game, but they love like, hey, you did this wrong. You should have done this. I said, well, how many times you played the fucking game? You know? They haven't. So, It's really unsatisfying to play a game incorrectly. At least for me. I get no joy out of it. Because you could be like, man, these rules are terrible, but you haven't played them right once. You know? Good morning, Skylight. Man, early for you. 5 a.m., a little before 5. You're waking up at my time. Good, you're evolving. Or devolving. Okay. Hufflepuff is done other than the pieces parts that go on them. Yeah. I know, I see videos of, like the Little Wars guys, for instance. How many periods do they play? It's overwhelming. I couldn't play that many different things. I couldn't play that many different things. I could play them. I don't want to be the point guy learning the rules. I'd get shit wrong and... Well, they don't show you people really playing the rules. They kind of do recaps and stuff like that. If that's the Heffalump, what's the woozles? Woozies. Woozles. I don't know. I'm not following that Harry Potter, those Harry Potter names. Heffalumps from Winnie the Pooh, right? Or Snuffleupagus. Here's your Snuffleupagus. Oh, I hope I didn't mix my Tufts in with the other ones. If I did, it's gonna reinvent the wheel. Use the 4 colors we used. The 4 variations we used. Really feel the itch to paint a World War II vehicle. Oh well. It's not like I went and bought one. I got plenty to choose from that I like. All right. If I decide to do that this weekend. I did 3 of them and it turned out, I'm really happy with how they turned out. That's Winnie the Pooh's reference. My brain isn't quite adapted to this early in the morning. I went to sleep about 12:30. Stayed up way too late watching latest in our Bond saga of games. 2 of each? Let's pull 3 of each out. It's chased with scotch, so if I had had beer, I would have been not worth a damn. I don't do well with beer. I don't remember the last time I had a drink. Well, last night, but before that, I didn't. But it was fun. We're watching the movie and we're making color commentary throughout. Okay, stop the movie, and analyze different shit. Like, it's fun, enjoying working my way through it. So, working my way through them in order. Ooh, there's some hairy ones here. Might have to cut these down. These are getting kind of big. get 2 of these because we're going to cut these down. Just remember, the earlier you wake up, the earlier you can have coffee and eat. I don't know what I'm putting that over there. They're going to fall over and make a loud sound. And we may need 4 of these. The Australian Tufts. Yeah. I don't even glue these down. The sticky stuff they use here. That Vegemite glue that they use works really well. I'm enjoying using 4 different Tuft colors. It works really well. Yeah, these slippery bastards. See what we're dealing with here. This is probably one of the best basings I've done, meaning it has less things I have got to try to cover up. Drink. That one there. Probably should just use the back. I may not even cut this. I may not cut this down. All right, let's get Mr. Elmer's out. One of the things I have trouble doing is building an army with just one manufacturer. I've just gotten hooked on like using all kinds of manufacturers. I've got the figures for them, and you know, just for pose variety. You know, like the Gladiator figures are beautiful. They make one Hun Archer. It's this guy. It's the exact same pose every single guy. I mean, I could do a whole army with one pose, but why? If I don't have to. Let's get a brush we don't love very much. This would probably work okay. Let's do the other big green one. I'll put it back there. I don't mind reordering this stuff through the mail now that I know what colors I need. So I definitely don't want to lose the packaging these come in, so I could reorder them. I wanted to get that one piece. Okay. Now we got these other temperate type colored things. Maybe that's what I should do to learn the World War II vehicle rules. I've got a BA6 armored car painted, and I have a BT7 painted. So I should paint a Panzer II, or I've got a Panzer IIIe with a 37mm gun, but a few of them went into Russia. As a matter of fact, I think I did research on that maybe about a year ago, and I don't know where the hell it went. I guess I could find it just as easily as I could have before, but I don't remember where I found it. Found some reference that told me what percentage of the units had 37mm armed Panzer IIIs. It's pretty much a giveaway that they're going to be E's. A few F's had them as well, but I've got an E that I picked up from MMS, which is a white metal kit. What's your weather like today? You may be able to see the NASA rocket liftoff today. Well, I'm not much of a space cadet. I've only seen shuttle launches, for instance. I had only seen one for the longest time, and that was when the Challenger blew up. That was just coincidence. That was in high school, and we stepped outside and we could see it. It's probably going to be rainy. I bet we can't. What time's the launch supposed to be? I also took a flight, and there was a shuttle that had just launched when I was in the aircraft, and I must have not had a phone with me at the time, because that's definitely something you take a picture of. It was freaking cool, and it was relatively big. You could see what it was. It wasn't like it was off in the distance. I mean, I was above it. Not right above it, but off to the side. I must have been flying from... That might have been that flight that I took from Fort Lauderdale to Houston, or it had to be South Florida. It had to be somewhere from South Florida to either the Northeast. Yeah, I don't know what flight that was, but that was pretty cool. That was really pretty cool. And our convention used to be twice a year. One of them was in Cocoa Beach, and I was there, and there was a rocket launch. It wasn't a shuttle. It was, I think, after the shuttle stopped launching or something like that. And I guess I'm like 6 miles away or something like that. Not a huge distance, maybe even more than that. It was loud as crap. And it was a standard rocket. I don't know what they are. I don't know my rockets. 2 p.m. your time. Yeah, we're going to be in a tailgate at that time. This will be the equivalent of a Saturn V. Wow. The equivalent of a Saturn V. You saw the Saturn V lift off from Fort Myers back in the early 70s. I thought you were my age. I thought you were like my age. I mean, I could have seen something in the early 70s too. I just wouldn't have remembered it. I've actually never been to Kennedy Space Center, ever. It's just not my thing, you know. I probably won't be able to see it. I'm going to be under tree coverage or whatever. I've never been to Kennedy Space Center. And never really wanted to go. It's not... I'm not a science guy. I mean, I liked all that stuff when I was a kid, because, you know, you're a kid. You know, but... So who's running all those rocket launches now? I honestly don't know what the politics of who's doing what. It's sad that, I mean, we waste a lot of money on stuff. I think that launching rockets is probably not one of our big useless wasting things, you know? I'm not against shutting down NASA. I don't know the inner workings. Maybe they were just incompetent. Well, it is the government, so there's that. Not that private industry doesn't make huge incompetent shit too, but they usually go out of business. Or somebody gets fired for it. I've never been to Kennedy Space Center. But man, it was loud. I remember when I heard that, I thought we were at war. I thought we were at war and we were losing. NASA launched from Pad 39B. The last moon rocket to launch from there was Apollo 10. Wow. Would you volunteer to go on one of those rockets? I know I wouldn't. Or on a submarine. I'm scared of shit. I want to pick how I don't die. Let's put this irregular shaped one here. Probably would not go. As I get older, I've gotten more claustrophobic. I'm not claustrophobic. Yeah, well, I'm afraid of things caving in on me. I have an irrational fear of things caving in on me. You can remember listening on the radio to the Eagle landing on the moon, the dialogue between Mission Control and Neil Armstrong. Or in that TV set in Nevada where it really happened, right? I'm not a conspiracy person. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just not. I don't automatically go to that. But the rocket stuff's cool. There's lots of rocket stuff like that that I'm not interested in or annoyed by. That's not any of it. The actual launches, they're cool. You know. I don't like when people start talking about shit that's 15 million light years away and shit. That's just annoying. You guys can't even find shit at the bottom of our oceans, and you're worried about stuff that's unfathomable. Or, you know, aliens and shit like that. Show me an alien. You're watching landings, live TV from my home at the time in Woodridge, Illinois. Oh, you're old. Probably like me. You don't think yourself old. I think that's probably relative. Just you always think you're the same age all the time. Let's put one of these little happy guys. Oh no, that's looking pretty good there. Watch an octopus long enough, you might believe aliens. They are really cool. Octopus are really cool. I need to get some younger people on my channel. Yeah, no, I've looked at my stats. The demographics are people that are about 10 years older than me. No women. I apparently don't do anything for women. Oh well, you know. I do what I do, and you either like it or you don't like it. And, you know. So a couple of years ago, people would go on this rant of how do we get more women in the wargaming hobby? Well, you got to, like, do something that appeals to, you know, most people. I mean, there's just some stuff that just doesn't appeal to me, you know, like it just doesn't work for some people. Like sports stuff. I'm not interested in sports stuff at all. You know, I don't care how interesting or there's just some things that just aren't going to appeal to some folks. You know? I think I go in the fabric store to look for stuff. I'm the only straight dude there, you know? It's fine. It's not a normal realm, you know? I'm kind of glad I'm older. I've seen things in history that today's generations have missed out on. Yeah, I'm glad I'm older so I remember how things used to be. And I'm annoyed that they're not that way. Remember watching Apollo 11 land on the moon on TV and was 8 at the time, and all you could see on TV was a light gray blob against a dark gray background. Yeah. I can't imagine not remembering how it was before the internet. I just can't imagine that. Makes you really appreciate the internet. No, I don't like watching sports at all. It's just boring, you know. I don't care what they look like. But then I didn't grow up in a household that watched them, you know. If your dad's like really into them, you're affected by the things that your dad does, you know. Assuming you know who your dad is. Our generation earlier did. The new generation, well, they don't know who their dad is, or they don't know who their dad identifies as. Oh man, problems that we had no idea that were looming right around the corner for people of the future. Well, my dad never watched any sports, but he was big into history. Yeah, I wonder if that. I wonder if that carried on with me. My dad was not a war gamer, though. I'm gonna put one there. I think we're done. There's a loud motorcycle that went by. All right, now let me put my glasses on so I can take a look at this from a reasonable distance. See if can I flip this view around? Let's see. See if I can flip this view around for you guys. What's this? That's a rotate. That's a mirror. Why can't I film from the other side? Why does the brightness keep resetting up? There we go. No, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it. All right. What I can do is we can unhook this, disconnect it, because the lighting is correct in this direction. We won't mount it. It still gets lost and this is hard doing this backwards. There's the heffalump. What's this? Microphone's in the way? Got away microphone. Well, so she's done. Let's plug all this stuff back in. There we go. A superior elephant. And honestly, this thing could probably double as an elephant for a few other armies. Ghaznavids or the other guys that always get mixed up with the Ghaznavids. Khwarezmians. Those two guys, I get those two mixed up completely. They're the same part of the world. The Gurid, it worked for the Gurids as well. That same time period, not same time period, same part of the world. You know. So yeah, work complete. He can join the rest of the guys. How does he look next to the bow folks? Got anybody else here? Yeah. Now let me look at it. I like it. Okay. Let's move these guys off to the side. And Heffalumpas. All right, what do we got over here other than a couple tufts that we didn't use that we'll use later? We have 6 light horse to do. Next, we not need these foot guys. Let's put them off to the side. We do not need these guys right now. Well, we're not going to switch gears. We're going to keep doing this for the time being. If I feel like working on some models later today or tomorrow or whatever, we'll start a new session with that in mind. I don't want to really spend time digging around to find all the stuff where it might be, so. Two of these 3 guys are gladiators, the other 3 guys are not gladiators. So let's paint the 3 gladiator guys. Jeez, what an ordeal. Oh, I'm gonna have to put water in this. This thing's a bit dry-ish. All right, let me go take care of that, and I'll be right back. I see the pics of the 15mm colonial Russians up on that site. Yes, I did. And I commented on them. I may not have commented on that site, but I did on his personal page. I think they look great. I really do. Okay, Harvey, thanks for stopping by. I thought they have a lot of potential. Yeah, some of them look kind of quirky. I'm okay with quirky. I can make it work. Brought these guys out because I need to figure out what color horses to do. These bow guys I've got from Gladiator. I got one guy that's a bow that has the bow out, and he's a light colored one. And he's this pose, so we're going to do that one next, and we're going to give him a brown horse. Yeah, I thought that those Russians looked really good, so I will be picking them up if I like the rules. I don't mind that the inventory's all one pose. I think I can make it work. I would replace the flag bearer's flag. He needs a bigger flag. He needs a bigger flag, so that would be the first colonial guys I would do. I would get those figures. Okay, I think we're gonna do a dark brown with this one. All right, let's move these guys somewhere safe. So like not around here. Put them back in the case. We'll have to do a photo session after this is with the heffalump. Yeah, I don't know why the guy made such a big deal out of how long it takes him to take pictures. I think he's trying to do he's trying to be too much of a perfectionist with the background and stuff. Just take pictures of the figures just so people can see what they include. That's it, you know. It was like, well, he didn't want to make them look like the old Gladiator figures, which I thought looked plenty fine. Plenty fine. Obviously, what he does is awesome. His figures are great with his photoshopping or whatever of the background, but honestly, that's pretty unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. It's just, I get it. He wants to be a perfectionist. He wants to do it right the first time. So, not a whole lot of those people left in the world. I don't think. Maybe there are. They certainly keep a low profile. German camo. If you still want some info on Central Asia, 19th century, just ask. Had a quick flick through the Foundry book, and the flags they used were interesting. Yeah, I gotta earn my way to it. I don't like that tricolor. I don't like the black, yellow, and white tricolor. It just looks wrong, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't use it. I always associated the red, white, and blue tricolor for the Russians to be a modern invention. I guess it's been around for a while. When somebody says Tsarist Russia, 19th century, the first thing I think of is, oh, it's got to have some kind of St. Andrew's cross. Nope. Apparently not. But, yeah, I'll let you know if I start working on that stuff. It's gonna be after this convention in September if I decide to go that route. I'm kind of hoping that I don't get into the period. If I do get into the period, I think that I should be able to do it slow enough. I'm not going to have a bunch of extra shit that I'm not going to paint. However, I'm starting from scratch. However, if I do start from scratch, everything will look good. It's not like I have to cannibalize old stuff. So there's pros and cons to everything. And overthinking it as usual. But I don't want to buy shit and then not do anything with it. But that's what I would do. I would do Russians. I'm reading a book right now, the Audible book on the Great Game, and it's an awesome book. I'm really enjoying that one. Or it's being read to me. It's being read to me. And I'm really enjoying that. Learning about places I didn't know existed. I'm reading this book. I'm like, Kiva. Where the F is Kiva? Well, now I know. I want to see how cavalry is handled. If it's just like a vehicle to get them to dismount somewhere else, rapid mobility, and then dismount somewhere else and then use them as riflemen, then becomes a little less interesting. But I did like those Russians a lot. I think the infantry would work just in one pose. Well, there are 8 figures to a pack, right? Or are they 10? Something like that. Buy one pack. Buy one pack of them, the command pack. I was trying to find out about their artillery they use. I'm not sure how the artillery works in the rules. I just don't want to use something like Sword in the Flame. The units are too artificially well, honestly, I can do whatever the hell I want. If I'm not running it as a tournament, I basically do whatever the hell feels right to me. Which I don't plan on playing another tournament game after DBA. I don't. Doesn't really motivate me. You just build stuff for scenarios. Just to give you an excuse to paint stuff, Yeah, I have the Foundry book. I've 2 of them. I've got the one from the 16th century, and I've got the Americas one. And to be honest with you, I haven't used any of them at all because I got them and just haven't gotten around to get into the period to paint. I love the illustrations. They're beautiful. Just for being black and white, that works just fine. Kind of annoying when I got the 16th century one that the bookend was already worn and I hadn't even opened it. Because the writing on it is almost like in gold. It was already worn out. Kind of annoying because I'm a bit of a book Nazi. I mean that in a good way. I don't like to mistreat books at all. I guess you can't really use Nazi as an adjective when what you're trying to get at is not mistreat things. I think that's kind of counterintuitive. This one. But I like those figures a lot. I may not have commented on that on the bulletin board site, but I did on his Facebook thing. I think he's just trying to spend way too much time on the photos. I mean, they're great. I mean, that's the way you do it. Is ink. Don't have somebody paint figures for him. I mean, even if you get a great painter, maybe somebody has another vision of what they should look like in color. So just an ink or a wash or something like that is just fine. Just check out the ebook version, the Foundry book. Shaved some down in price. They're £20, but they were more. But they were more than the printed copies. I didn't know they were available in ebook form. That's good. That's good. That's good to know. I think that area has a lot of potential for a fun game. Lots of different factions, lots of different, and what I envision in those games is not, a table with like 6 or 8 players and everybody is doing their own thing. It's not like, okay, line up on this side if you're British, line up on this side if you're Russian and go at it, it's everybody kind of has their own agenda of what they're trying to accomplish. Kind of like Pig Wars or the games that I've played that people have run of Pig Wars. I think that's the appeal to me, Maybe your force is, you've got 12 Cossacks or something like that, and you have to go rescue a wagon or some shit like that, and other people are trying to stop you, and somebody else is trying to stop the people that are trying to stop you, but they wouldn't mind if some Cossacks, got hurt or, whatever. So... There's lots of people that make British. Seems like the best bet for the Pathans. I always thought they were Pathans, but I guess it's Pathans. The Afghanis, the natives. The best bet for me would probably be from Blue Moon. They make a lot of variety. Although I have mixed feelings about some of their poses of Blue Moon in general. They're well done. Some of their poses are kind of like, I wish I hadn't done that. But there's a fair number of manufacturers for that. Only one for Russians. I would use those gladiator guys for Russians, which I found on a fluke. I'm really not sure how I found them, but I think I came across a site that listed them as. There's a site that I came across that all 19th century miniatures and the manufacturers, and some manufacturers I've never even heard of before. But they have no artillery. But you could probably use some Russo-Turkish artillery, or maybe getting away with some Russo-Japanese war artillery. Not sure how artillery works in a game, so said I gotta try it and see if I like the decisions that I have to make, or maybe it's a good base to modify it to your own liking, but a game that's story driven more than realism, or I don't want it to be unrealistic, but it's not like it's a World War II game or something like that, where that's really one of the driving factors. Timecast are increasing their prices for Old Glory 15s here in the UK. Aren't Blue Moon made in the UK though? Because Old Glory was what? Right, it was all one thing, right? And then 19th century miniatures got most of like the stuff that I'm interested in. They got all the 15s. And then Blue Moon, I think, were sculpted since then because there's carryover of the different things. I think all the 25s, or I don't know what the history is. You probably know more about it than I do, but Blue Moons are relatively new. But they make lots of different tribesmen and all kinds of shit. All those painting guides and stuff is really for me more than anybody else. Anybody I'm playing with, they don't have a clue. I'd like to get things right if I can, because you learn from it. Okay, Blue Moon are cast in the U.S. by Old Glory 25s. So Old Glory 25s in the U.S. as well. What Old Glory, is there anything that's made in Old Glory UK specific? That if we want to get it, it has to come through that we have to import it, or it's just kind of a stand-in? Is it like Eureka Miniatures USA that just basically brings up, they import the Eureka miniatures from Australia? And I'm not necessarily opposed to, say, getting some Russians from the Crimean War and mixing them in, because remember, it's individual basing. So another infantry unit that's the Crimean War, and you paint them like they are for the Crimean War. They just decide to show up in Afghanistan. It was other stuff. I don't want to make up my own uniforms. But I like the idea, I want to paint some like Mexicans for the Mexican-American War. So you buy a couple packs of them and you paint them and then you move on. It's not like you have to go on this long litany of... I just use that as an example. But it's nice to just... The individual basing is the appeal to me. You paint them and you have something, not like, well, I don't have anything until I mount them all on a stand. Okay. This guy, I believe, is going to have to have a gray cape. So let's do that. Ooh. Oh, these came in handy. Historicon 2018 coin. Take the initiative. Probably felt bad for everybody playing in that shithole because it was torn up. It was like Stalingrad. Alright, let's get these things out of here. I'm obviously knocking things over as I'm trying to get to something else. I find that extremely annoying. There's nothing endearing about being a klutz. think Timecast only makes those flexible feels in the terrain. The miniatures they sell are imports. Ogor UK are entire imports from the US and some from Russia. Huh. I didn't know that they made miniatures in Russia. That's cool. Timecast has those awesome buildings. Man, their stuff's amazing. Amazing stuff. I have some of their buildings. They're beautiful. Man, they're beautiful. This stuff's really, really nice. And there's another company that reminds me of Timecast called, I don't remember what the color called, but they make a couple things in different scales, and one of their scales is something like big battalions or something like that. I don't remember who the hell it is, but they make Timecast type stuff. You know, of course, they're in the UK as well. The land of toys. With shipping prices, I don't know how they manage it. If you look on their Facebook page, you see they get massive amounts of packs in all at once. Must cost an arm and a leg. I don't know what's going on with shipping prices. I still stand with the Brexit thing created a situation where everybody looked for ways to. Maybe they weren't charging enough on their shipping before, and it created an interest in them looking into how things needed to increase in price that have never increased proportionally. Because, for example, before Brexit, shipping from the UK was almost the same as shipping from the US. Total Battle Miniatures, that's the one. Yeah. Total Battle Miniatures and Timecast. There's some beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. But before Brexit, the shipping from the US or the UK for us was about almost the same. The only thing that kind of was a difference was the exchange rate, which isn't dramatic. But before Brexit, like Italy, just cost prohibitive. It's just cost prohibitive to order from Legio Heroica or something like that. It was like, 40% of your order or something ridiculous like that, and like a huge minimum. I'm like, can't order from Italy. Can't order from anywhere in Europe except the UK. But they were part of the European Union, which didn't make any sense. But now that they're not part of the European Union, now it's more expensive. So it's almost kind of like people were noticing that they needed to up their shipping rates or something, or people, I don't know what it is, but it would make sense that it was like that before and now it isn't. But I don't know. Kind of like when you sell your house here in the U.S. Here, when you sell your house, it gets appraised, right? Well, every time your house sells, it gets appraised at a higher level because it's sold. Generally, assuming you're not, living somewhere that's things are going down in value. So the more a house gets sold, the more it goes up in value. Kind of. It's kind of the same thing. It's almost kind of like nobody was looking into what the costs weren't being adjusted or something. But that sucks because, I like that cross trade. That's where the US UK cross trades for the miniatures market. That's definitely the important one for me. But I'm not overbuying stuff anyways. I'll buy whatever it is that I need at whatever price it ends up being at when I need it. these guys from, I got free shipping with them. These Huns. And yeah, they were kind of expensive because they're kind of expensive figures, but at least they're nice figures. And at least the shipping was free. I guess the shipping was 20% of your order, which I guess is kind of a lot, but it is what it is. Increased postal charges from the UK-US is entirely due to the US withdrawal from the Universal Postal Union. It was nothing to do with Brexit. Well, did it happen about the same time? That's the only reason I called it Brexit. And I don't have an opinion on the Brexit thing. I honestly don't know. I don't follow it, and we all get our news from a source that's not accurate. No matter what you're saying, we're not being told the full story. So I personally think every single country should be independent. That's me. That's just on principle. But we should just form a union with the UK. Done. I mean, if you guys would have us. We're not driving on that wrong side of the street, though. That's a deal breaker. Now, that's about when I started noticing it, because I thought the shipping was pretty reasonable. I start hearing about this VAT this and the VAT that and the... You guys get taxed too much, and we don't have enough days off. You need to fix those two things. And I'm okay with you blaming it on our postal service, because I hate our postal service. And I order something from somebody and I realize that, it's got handed off to the U.S. Postal Service. I'm like, oh, God. I wonder when it's going to get here. So you can blame anything you want on the U.S. Postal Service. I'm not going to get upset about it. Guaranteed. Jeremy Heller, welcome. The postal delivery person drives like a maniac around our neighborhood. But I don't like anything that people are allowed to get away with incompetence. I was raised, if you do a shitty job at your job, you get fired. End of story. You should want to do a good job. If you half-ass shit, you should be out of employment, as far as I'm concerned. And that goes for public or private industry, whatever. Don't be shitty at what you do. This guy's got another rug that he's sitting on. I think I'm going to go a lighter color with this one. Maybe I can get away with this. Let's try doing this. This should work just fine. Is that one? I think it is. Sealed some minis last night and a couple of them fogged over slightly. Had to repaint a bit, but to make them look okay. Okay, What's going on with people? Why do I not have that problem? It's never happened to me. Never. And it's humid as unbelievably humid here. I sprayed yesterday. I sprayed all, and it's never happened. I also don't spray. Whatever I spray in, the bottle stays out there. It's not like I've did some extensive study. It's just how it is. So my spray bottle's in the garage. So the bottle's always the temperature that it's going to come out in. Maybe it's that. If you have the bottle, you keep it in here, but then you go somewhere hot or very big temperature difference to spray. Maybe the change in temperature is happening in midair. And I don't spray it very heavy, and I don't spray it very close either, or too far away. I don't know. I just do it, and it's never been an issue. I'm just wondering what everybody's doing wrong, or what I'm doing right. It was so much. I made a video on it, how I spray things. And the day I sprayed it was literally raining outside, or it had just rained. It was humid as shit. I mean, this is swamp ass capital weather here. I don't know why so many, and it's really, I feel for you guys. Spend all the time doing it, and then Mother Nature screwing you. They used 2 different cans. First one was near end, and possibly the temp thing I mentioned. Yeah, I leave my spray can in the garage, and I spray in the garage, so it always comes out at the same temperature. And I just do that because, why bring it in? Just leave it there. Man, spray cans have gotten so expensive. So expensive. I remember those little Testors Model Master things. They were like $2.99 each. Now, if you can find them, they're like $8. So I couldn't find it anymore. So I went to I think it's a Krylon. It's kind of a cheapy one, and I was afraid of it, but knock on wood, I've had good results so far. Cans were in basement and then took them outside. So the cans were colder, and you took them out where there was warmer. I wonder if the same thing would happen if you had them in the sun and then you took them into the basement to spray. It's got to be that. Unless you're really spraying it thick, which I doubt that's what you're doing. I can't do that in Florida. No basements. Never lived in a house with a basement. I don't know what that's like. I wish I could game in a basement. It'd be a lot cooler. Look, it only happened to a couple stands. Sadly, it was your elephants. It's got to be that. I thought it was maybe using cheap spray paint. I've had to use cheap spray paint because the better one wasn't available. And yeah, it's got to be the temperature difference. Keep your cans in the garage. If you have one, you may have a basement instead of a garage. Or a garage. Garage. Whatever you guys call them. Use the Army Painter brand. Their stuff should be plenty good. It's better than the shit I'm using. Yeah, try keeping it at the ambient temperature that you're going to spray in, or you know, close to it. Not, I mean, basements are cool. So what is it? Probably in the 60s there, and outside. I'm not sure what part of the world you're in, but it's probably at least 80. Here it'd be damn near 100. So yeah, it's got to be that. Well, hopefully you can get it fixed. Nothing worse than have something like that happen to you at the last minute. I don't know what fur this is, but it could be sheep or something like that, or mountain goat. The Army Painter stuff's plenty good. You shouldn't be having that problem with it. I don't think it's a quality issue. But you never know. You're not alone. Lots of people have that. Well, it's going to be time to stop painting soon because we got Transom Light 30. I'm talking about the light that's coming out through there. It just shines directly on here. So, okay, what's next on this guy? We need a shirt, a short, and pants. Do we have pants that are slightly green? I don't think I do. Let me take a look. I can lose this light now. Take a looky. No. All right, we're going to do that. What is that? Russian green or Russian brown or whatever the hell it's called. Russian uniform? Russian uniform. Russian uniform. Russian uniform pants. And I'm going to use this same khaki color for his shirt, but we're going to tinker with it. Do you know how well TTG and Old Glory 15s match up? Thinking of using the TTG Cavalry and the Old Glory infantry to make a small Norman early Crusades army for lying rampant to face my Muslims. I want to play Lion Rampant again. It's a cool game. We'd like to press your luck. Mitch and I have played it. The other boys, I don't think have played it. TTG and Old Glory 15s. I think they match up okay. You going to put them on stands, or you're going to individually base them? TTG Cavalry and the Old Glory Infantry to make a small Norman early Crusades army for lying rampant to face your Muslims. I've got TTG Normans and mounted, and they're a little small. I think they would match up okay, but I'm not super picky. I think they would be just fine. Certainly, if you already have the figures, use what you have. Use what you have and, complement it. If you don't ever use the stuff you have, then just get rid of it. Infantry based on UK pennies, cavalry on 2p coins. Oh, absolutely. If they're individually based, is a UK penny similar in size to US one? What the hell is a 2p coin? Wow. Is that like a quarter? Have you mounted mounted figures? Have you mounted figures? Have you mounted figures on a circular stand? Do you prefer that? Because I'm gonna do that as well. If you already have the figures, definitely do it. But if I had to buy, you must either have TTG or Old Glory. I bet you already have the TTG guys, because I wouldn't buy TTG now if given other options, because some of their Normans are just kind of they're rough. I think they'll paint okay, but they're just rough. They're rough figures. I think they would be just fine, especially based individually. I got one guy that I watched, and he went on a rant. I shouldn't say a rant. A rant sounds like he's just like a screaming up and down, jumping and waving his fist. He's a very calm dude, but his crusade was about how Norman horses really should be ponies. And UK pennies are around 20 mil, 2p are 26. Okay. So UK pennies are the same size as the US ones. They're not. These are 19. I measured them. So 25 mil. So it's kind of like this. It's similar to this kind of. Okay. Might skip on TTG. Alternative Armies has a sale. Now, if you haven't bought them, I would buy those museum ones. The Z-Range Normans look really, really cool. Yeah, I wouldn't get them. I use them because I have a lot of them given to me, and they look okay, but they're pretty. They're relatively rough looking. They're relatively rough, and I would want to replace all their lances, as their lances are kind of old school. That doesn't mean I dislike their figures. I'm just saying, if I had to buy them from scratch, I would go in a different route. See, that's why I don't want to be sponsored by anybody. I'd be like, I can't be honest. They're sponsoring my, stuff. I have nothing bad to say about alternative armies. They are very. I had a problem with an order that I ordered from Noble Knight, and I didn't even contact them. They found out through the grapevine, or maybe they watched my post or something. They found out that, and they sent me a new war wagon and everything. So and I've ordered from them several times before. I'm a big fan of their stuff, but it's definitely older school. I plan on using their figures, a lot of them, moving forward, because I have a lot of them that I have inherited from people, and they paint up wonderfully. The knights from my My papal army are all alternative armies. I think they sell things by the each, which is, that's the frickin' way to go. That's my language right there. Yep. Yeah, and the Normans from Old Glory aren't bad either. I've got a bunch of them. I happen to like Old Glory a lot. Sometimes you get some figures that have really pronounced cheekbones. Here I am again on my cheekbone crusade. People don't look like that, you know? You don't have everybody that looks, you know. Maybe if, you know, you're building an army from people from Greenland, you know. Natives from Greenland, I forget what the hell they're called. Not Inuits, but that's not really what they look like. And some of the Old Glory lances are a little too much like rip a branch off a tree and here you go. But their chainmail paints up really, really nicely. But the Z-range stuff, the Norman stuff, looks really cool. But that's just, you know, from what I've seen. I can't verify it personally. Okay, now we're going to mess with this guy's shirt. We're going to use this khaki as a base, which is actually the same color that his the thing he's sitting on is. His pelt. But we're going to add some of this brown to it. And then once we got that color, then we'll start off here. But the Normans I really dislike are the splintered light Normans. They're just weird. They're really weird. They're rough and lanky, and some people love splintered light. I do not like splintered light at all. They're a combination of all the things I dislike from other figure lines. They're weird poses. They're unnatural poses, stiff, rough looking. I don't know. I'm sure lots of people like them out there, but they're not my thing. And I have some Normans by them that somebody was trying to sell me. I picked individual guys out, but I don't know if I'm ever going to paint them, you know. And I've got some Normans by Baweda. And they look different than everybody else's Normans too. They're kind of chubby, rotund-ish a little bit. They look good. I mean, I like their style that they're done in, but and then from here we're just going to start lightening it up there. And even the old museum range. I don't really know what Mr. Hoyles is doing. If he's replacing all his old figures, I didn't mind his old figures. I mean, they were distinct, and some guys were quirky looking, but they paint up great. And he used to be like the fastest shipping guy ever. Him in Essex. Really, really fast. The museum was the fastest one. By a day, you know. I think you get it in 1 day less than a week here in the States. So buyers will have to consider what's worth picking up before the Timecast price increases. Yeah. I wish the shipping was a lot cheaper and it was less of a pain in the ass to go to the post office, because I could see it being really useful. Like, hey, I got 20 Normans that I need. What do you need from what I have? And then we could mail shit to each other. But I would almost rather throw things away than have to go to the post office once. I absolutely detest going to the post office. And the biggest thing really is their hours. You know, they're only open. I have to go during my lunch break, which I like to call holy hour. You know, I don't want to do anything work related or stress inducing at lunchtime. And sitting there and waiting in a line, well, you know, people are moving at a pace that is ridiculous. It's just not my idea of a good time. And, you know, if it was less expensive, because it's just too damn expensive these days. I haven't had a soda this morning. Is it about that time? Hold on 1 second. You've ordered museum in the morning, received them the following day. Wow. Doesn't get any better than that. That's good. And your postal service may be better than ours. I don't like dealing with the attitude of the people there. Like, I have limited time to do it. I'll give you an example. I'll go in and I need to mail a flat rate box, right? Use their box as a container. Everybody knows how much it costs. I'm ready to go. Have everything written on it, whatever. It's domestic. It's not even going somewhere weird that I've got to fill out a customs form or anything like that. I go up to the counter because I want this machine to run smooth, right? Because I want to spend I don't want to spend my lunchtime sitting there waiting in line with a bunch of grumpy people. So I got my shit together. Everything's filled out, everything. I literally hand them the box, and it even says everybody knows how much the price of the flat rate box is. So I tell them, this is all I need. I don't need any stamps. And the dickhead behind the counter, I can't call him anything other than that, he's a dickhead, goes through talking slow through a litany of, do you want confirmation? Do you want this? Do you want stamps? Do you want, and I'm like, I wish there was a way you guys would go out of business, because you're just wasting all of our life. And I'm getting angry thinking about how incompetent people just, they just should be unemployed. And maybe that's what they make them do. But it's almost like, hey, let's have a competition to see how few people we can get through the system today. And I did my part. I'm going to have everything ready. I'm not going to be that person that goes in, doesn't have their shit together. Like when you fly, everybody knows you got to take your shoes off and your belt and all that. Have all that stuff off of you so you're not the person that causes the entire line to back up. I'm very conscious of things like that. And yeah. Not going to the post office. It's absolutely not going to the post office. He sounds indoctrinated. Oh. Got to get going. Yeah, so I think, I have this thing that once you work for the government, you pretty much are, in order to fit in there, I wouldn't have fit in there. You're not going to make it in the real world. I'm not saying the real world is always awesome, but I'm just saying that, you don't need to work for an asshole either. But yeah, it's like, how can we not get this to go smooth? Like, geez, man. It feels good to kick ass at your job, right? Mark something in the win column at the end of the day. So I'm glad your dad has a mail order business where he's got a positive experience. And maybe it's different in other countries. I'm just telling you here, it's piss poor. The private parcel delivery services in the UK are much worse than the Royal Mail. Wow. So here in the US, levels of competence. At the top now, right now at the top, Amazon. Anything that Amazon delivers themselves, it gets there to you. In my experience, and I've had a lot of experiences with Amazon, it gets to you on the day they tell you or earlier. They have said, oh well, this is supposed to deliver on a Monday. I'm like, good. I'm traveling over the weekend, and the sons of bitches go and deliver on a Saturday, and it's sitting on my doorstep for the weekend. Can't really fault them. They delivered it earlier than they planned. They all, they're always on time or early, and the person working there is happy. The guys that used to be at the very top of the tier got moved down one step, in my opinion, because Amazon is so efficient, and that is UPS. UPS, the guys were always, they'd leave it at your doorstep. They wouldn't leave you this little note that said, oh yeah, by the way, we tried to deliver this at 2:30 in the afternoon and you weren't there. No shit, I'm at work paying for your freaking salary, Just leave it at my doorstep. I don't live in a place where things will walk away, fortunately. UPS used to be number one. Now they're number two because Amazon is so awesome. Must be the volume of people at your post office. I live in a small town. Almost never get anyone in the post office when I go. The little town that I go to, it is a small one, but they just don't care. They just don't care. The private parcel guy delivering something across the road from my house. Him and his wife were throwing the parcels out into the road, trying to look for the one they needed. Oh, that's not good. Well, who knows if the box that I ordered ended up getting violated before it got to me. And then FedEx, but FedEx doesn't deliver on weekends and shit like that. So like sometimes you'll get something that gets shipped with UPS or with Amazon. It's happened with both of them. I'm like, all right, it's going to deliver with Amazon. At the last minute, they do a handoff to the U.S. Post Office, do the final delivery. I'm like, oh no. And the last time the Postal Service decided to deliver something, they went and they wrote a note said wasn't able to deliver. It did not deliver because the person at home refused the order. So they freaking lied to me. They, not only did they not deliver, but they lied to me. And, I don't appreciate being lied to, so. All right, enough of that. Next day, we found a parcel that rolled down the hill, wedged itself under a car tire. Wow. That sucks. Okay, so you got to use the Royal Mail. Maybe that's what the problem is. We don't have the Queen on our stamps. Maybe if we put a Queen on our stamps, then things would work better. Where can we find a Queen here in the United States? Had a nightmare with DPD a few weeks back. They turned up twice, took a photo of the rear of the building, and claimed I wasn't in. On the third attempt, they did deliver 2.5 hours late. They need to bring back duels. I challenge you to a duel, you. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run for office on my platform. It's going to be less lawyers, more duels. I don't know what DPD is, but DPD just doesn't even sound good. Just those letters just sounds like something's bad's going to happen. I had to run in with DPD. Oh. Did you get taken away in chains? Domestic Police Department. As far as I'm concerned, you're welcome to our entire royal family. I don't vote. I didn't vote for him. Perhaps you could take some of our politicians too. No, we have too many. No, I don't think anybody wants politicians. I don't think anybody wants anybody's politicians or lobbyists or. Watch my latest video and I'll tell you exactly how I feel about it, the whole lot of them. I don't like people that say one thing and do something else. So, right there alone, I don't think very highly of them. I've been DPD that delivered local Amazon parcels. What doesn't fit through the letterbox they leave on the doorstep. Thankfully, there's almost no theft around here. Yeah, don't give anybody any ideas. Yeah, knock on wood, same problem here. Same no problem. Hold on, I think somebody's awake that I may need to interact with. I'll be right back. Well, somebody out there likes your royal family. Maybe nobody owns up to it. say one thing and do something else. Not a good fit for me. I try not to conduct myself the same way. I don't like to say I'm going to do something and I don't. Does it happen? Yeah, forces against my will, but so I need to finish this guy, 5 more figures, and then I just have to build the Cav Commander, which should be fun. And then we're done with this version of the army. We're done with the White Huns. And then we'll work on adding some other elements to do the other Hun variants. That's the plan anyways. But yeah, I did like those Russians. What'd you think of them, Ben? Did you like them, or they looked a little too old school? A couple of the guys had some odd looking faces, but I think if I got them, I could make them shine. I really liked the pose the infantry figures were in. I really, really liked it. I liked that they had a little bayonet stuck on them. I wouldn't mind having 20 or so figures that all have that same pose. It'd be okay. I'd be all right with that. One of the figures I first painted when I was doing my World War II skirmish. All my World War II skirmish guys, they all have a surname on them, for identifier. And this guy happened to be a goofy looking guy whose last name was Kraus. He was a German. And it was a goofy looking figure. I believe it's a figure by Platoon 20. Not sure what they were called in the UK, if they were still called Platoon 20 or whatever. This was in the early 90s when I got this guy. And I put the surname of Kraus on him, and we ended up calling him Cartoon Kraut for the longest time because he was very cartoon looking. I don't have him anymore. I mean, I have the figure. It was one of those figures that I stripped. So I'll probably at some point repaint him, and he'll still be Kraus again. Cartoon Kraut. That's what we used to call him. And I had him at a point where my wife and I started dating, and she was living far away. And she actually sequestered a figure, and that was the figure that she ended up taking. She ended up taking one of my figures. I thought it was funny that so the guy's got quite a bit of history. Cartoon Kraut. He's planning to go to the Colors show next weekend, but I may have to spend the money on Old Glory figures instead. I would love to go to a show in the UK because that's where all the good painters are. My opinion. There's better painters in the UK than in the US. The Land of Toys. Colors show. Yeah. What if you could probably go to all the UK shows over there? They're not that far away from each other. Not by our standards. You could probably go on a train, right? I like riding on a train. We just don't have that service here. I don't want to ride on a bus. Train's cool. Train's classy. I don't know if I'd want to put a game on, lugging a bunch of stuff to it, but if you guys watched any of the videos that I did on the Historicon, I'll be doing more stuff like that at all our shows. That was a lot of fun to do. We enjoyed it. I know some of you guys that are across the pond get to our shows here in Orlando really are small. I mean, they're nothing to write home about. I mean, it's a good crowd of folks, but it's not, it's a couple hundred folks. So it's not like, the big shows you guys have over there. And it's a lot less guys, and it's over more days. Not just a one-day event. Why is that? Why are UK shows usually only one day? You don't have to worry about lodging then? And I know lodging is terrifically more expensive in Europe than it is here. Salute. That's what I was getting ready to say. That's your big one, right? I would love to go to those UK shows. That just, I can't go to Europe and go to war game things. I ended up getting divorced. You can't do that. It's so little time off, so little time off, and it's a pain to take it. It really is. Do gamers smell over there, or that's just a U.S. thing? Colors used to be 2 days, but it's only on Saturday now. You bought your first 15 millimeter Army there when it was called Armageddon back in '82. Yeah, I could definitely see back in the day it'd be a bigger deal to use it for shopping because who wants to mail order stuff? Now I think everybody pretty much ships really quickly. You know, that's rather nice. Here comes the sun. It's very disorienting to have this other light source that is so intense. Definitely be going to the Milton Keynes show the following weekend, which is only half an hour from me, but they have very few traders there. Milton Keynes, never heard of her. Is that a war game show or kind of like a concert, which I really wouldn't know anything about. Man, we got a tailgate to do. That involves drinking. I gotta watch another movie tonight. That's more drinking. Crap. It's drinking weekend. I don't think I'm gonna have 3 scotches though. I think I may cut it down to 2. Okay, we're gonna scrub this one because the light is just crazy, and we've been on here a while, right? 3 hours and 10 minutes. Yeah. So, anyways, you guys enjoy your weekend. I may be back on today, or not sure, but Campaign at Milton Keynes is the only UK show held in a shopping mall. Well, that's cool. I bet you got other people that can come by and take a look at it that normally wouldn't show up. That's neat. I think a shopping mall is probably a good venue for wargaming. Okay, so thanks for coming by, folks, and enjoy your look. It's so bright in here you can't even tell whether or not I have this light on or not. And yeah, see you guys soon. See you later, folks. Bye-bye. And just so you guys know, you guys probably aren't familiar with this. This is Labor Day weekend, so I have Monday off too. So we should have 3 days of painting, at least some. I don't think we're going to go out of town, so we'll see you